So what I'm trying to do is explaining a little bit about research that I'm doing with musical accompaniment. And the easiest way for me to sort of set the stage for it is give a little background with me and my history working on this project. I grew up wanting to be an oboist. That was my first dream. And when I was young, I remember being acquainted with a product known as Music -1, and I'll explain how that works for folks who haven't heard of it. The idea is you take a piece of music for soloist and accompaniment. So it could be something like, say, a sonata for violin and piano, or a concerto for piano and accompaniment, and piano and orchestra. So there are two distinct roles. And the idea is you assemble all of the necessary players. And the Music -1 folks make two recordings. The first one they just do in the normal way, recording everyone. But for the second recording, which is the focal point of Music -1, what they do is they take the soloist and they remove that individual from the room. And they make a recording of everyone else. So then the idea is that you as a player of the featured instrument would buy the record and put it on your stereo, instrument in hand. Begins with a couple warning clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're off. So the accompaniment starts, and your job is to add in the missing solo part. What follows is just this tremendous battle of wills. It doesn't take very long for you to figure out that you're completely enslaved to the recording. You have to follow the recording. There's no way, no matter how inspired your interpretation it is, how musically correct, how well thought out, how practiced, it doesn't matter. It responds as if it doesn't hear you. Big surprise. It's the recording. So my thinking is this is really not the way it's supposed to be. The soloist should be free to do what it is that they want. The accompaniment should follow the soloist. And that's where my research begins. So my goal is to try to make a computer program that plays the role of the orchestra. Something that can hear the player and respond to what the player is doing. Well, first things start with a microphone. So sound comes into the microphone and then it goes into my computer. And my computer has a representation of the musical score. It knows what the notes are that are going to be played in both parts, the solo and the accompaniment, what the pitches are, what, at least according to the music, their durations are. And what the program does is generate an ongoing match between the sound that's coming in and the score. So you could think of it as something like this running commentary on what the soloist is doing, spitting out observations. I just got note 47, and here's when it started. So the next very important idea is, I don't know, maybe this is self-evident, but I'm hoping you folks will humor me with a little experiment here to make the next point I'd like to. Let's say that you folks are the orchestra and I'm the soloist, and we have a pair of notes that go together. My note goes like da, and your note is the same, da. So I'm going to say my note and I want you to be with me. So everyone on their toes? Da. Okay. You're late. Shall we try again? Da. Okay, well here's maybe a more realistic idea, and this sort of gets to the heart of the matter. Let's say my part is da-da-da-da. Okay, you ready? Your part is the same. You arrive with me on that fourth note. Ready? Da-da-da-da. Okay, well, still needs some work, but it's a big improvement. And I think it illustrates the idea pretty clearly. It's just simply hopeless to try and coordinate parts in a responsive way. That would mean the computer is waiting till it hears something, and then when it hears something, all of a sudden it acts. It will just never work because it takes time before you hear something. It takes time to respond. So the whole basis for the way the system works is continually predicting into the future based on what it is that it's heard. You can think of this as maybe generating this sequence of predictions which are like dots in space. And the way the accompaniment is actually generated is by connecting those dots with audio. That'll be what you actually hear, the connect the dots. I'd like to do a brief demonstration now before I bring on the musical heavyweights. I have these things that I call my frequently asked questions. And I'd like to answer them before you even ask them. So if you weren't going to ask them anyway, I hope you'll forgive me. So what I'm going to do now is play through a section of music a couple times. The first I'm just going to do in the normal way. It's just a few bars of a piece of music it's the third movement of the Mozart Oboe Quartet, to at least acquaint you with the wonderful piece if you've never heard it, and then to serve as a basis for the departure that will follow. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is play through the piece again and try and anticipate some of the questions that I get about this. People ask, well, what happens if you play a wrong note? I'm not very good at doing that on purpose, so I'm going to add some intentional ones. You'll probably recognize them. What happens if you make grotesque tempo changes? Well, people don't actually ask that. People ask, what if you play it a little bit differently? But to anticipate that, I'm going to play it in a rather extreme and granted unmusical way, just to make the point that it's the system that's following me and not the other way around. So we'll have grotesque, almost obscene tempo changes, wrong notes. I'm even going to repeat a measure twice, so you have to listen carefully to capture that, to catch that, to try and make my points.